It's not getting it.
And I want to welcome everybody out there in podcast land to the Good Times with Good People Company presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. I'm your host, Rio, and let me introduce you to the panel. First, we have got our returning champion for this week, Chris O'Connor. He is a co-owner of Liquid 9 Broadcast Media Production. We have got Dave Elliott. He is the owner of C&P Construction. We've got Roy Scott. He is the co-creator of H3, that is healthy hip hop, bringing clean and wholesome lyrics on today's fresh beats for the kids. We've got Brian Massey. He is a data analyst with DST Systems. And of course, the anonymous female, because she doesn't want you to know her name. So, before we started the podcast, we were talking about some of the things that we're going to be talking about in the podcast today, one of which being Ali. But before we do, because we're all sipping it, and this is pretty amazing, I want to skip the sponsor acknowledgments, and I'll come back to those because I want to get to Dave. What are we drinking?
We are drinking Ron Centenario. It's a 25-year Costa Rican rum. And this is kind of a bridge of American cultures where Costa Rica is. You know, it's kind of between South America and North America. And it's just a really interesting place. This rum is kind of really carefully selected with different sugar canes. And they're done in small American oak cask as it's aged. And this stuff it has very great notes of vanilla and nutmeg. Being aged 25 years, this stuff is just about as smooth as you can go. I drink a lot of rum, and I look for rum in a lot of places. The only place I've been able to find this to buy is in Florida.
Ah, okay.
You can maybe, I'd look for distribution on the internet, and I couldn't find out what distribution, but it is distributed in Florida. And so, when we left Florida a couple of weekends ago, I made sure to bring home 2 bottles.
Okay.
Now, I have noticed that you can buy it on the internet, but it is restricted to certain states where you can buy it. And it also on the internet is very interesting in what it's priced at, because I bought it for $60, and there's other places that on the internet where you can buy it for like $150, $160.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's really kind of interesting what you find out there, but this is the finest rum that I've come across. Most of the ratings I've seen on it are in the top 10 in the world as far as rums go.
I have to agree. This is probably the smoothest rum I've ever had.
It's a very sweet rum. It's a very dark rum, but it's
delicious.
It is truly. It's a delicious rum. I think that's a good way to put it.
This is delicious. Yeah, for the price tag is definitely something you want to hold down for an occasion if you can. But it is good.
And the podcast is a great occasion.
And it is a great occasion. And we'll go straight from what are we drinking to what are we smoking. And I guess I will start in the same place that I started with the rum. What are you smoking, Dave?
I'm smoking a Brick House. This is a big old 54 ring.
Was that Alex Bradley?
Yeah, you know, it's not an expensive cigar, but these Brick House has been rated many times rather high in several cigar magazines, and it's generally a $5 to $6 cigar.
Yeah, I like the Brick House. Yeah, and it's actually a really inexpensive stick. So.
It's a very inexpensive stick, and it's just something. It's not my normal smoke. And every once in a while, I'll see one and buy one, and I'm rarely disappointed by it.
All right, Chris, what are we smoking?
Always the go-to for me is the Oliva Series G. My favorite.
Can never go wrong with an Oliva Series G.
Nope, it's just a great everyday cigar.
Unless, of course, you're having a Series V, which is amazing.
Very true.
But yeah, Roy, what are we smoking?
I'm right there with Mr. O'Connor. I got the Oliva Series G.
All right.
We're trying to make sure we're matched up.
Yeah, the last couple of times I came in, I had the exact same one. So let's just keep it consistent.
Keep it consistent.
I'm going to.
Are you abstaining
I'm going to
today?
key you up to Oliva Series V.
Just second guess, man.
Secondhand
I'll
smoking.
bring one of them, and that's your next evolution.
I gotta go.
It's a fantastic cigar also.
So out there in podcast land, I was just asking Brian what is he smoking. He said he is having secondhand smoke. I am giving him the face and rolling my eyes, and now I'm back to you. I am having, I think, my seemingly podcast staple, the Fuente Rosada wrapper. Very tasty, smooth, medium body smoke. Can never quite go wrong with those. Love them. So before we get to any topics, I do want to acknowledge the Majestic Restaurants Pendergast Club, one of our sponsors that allows us to record our podcast up here. Also, although we are not drinking it today, I do still want to give some acknowledgement to Jay Rieger and company.
I'm drinking it.
Yeah.
I've got one too.
I'm about to say, we actually do have a couple people on the table right now that have double glasses right now. And for the first time ever in the podcast, the anonymous female is double glassed.
That's basically called two-fisted ring.
I wasn't sure if double fisted sounded right, so I wanted to go with
I
double.
appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Big Dave always has a different way of looking at things, right?
I am drinking Rieger Gin and Tonic.
Especially with the, Ali, you gotta be two-fisted today.
There you
right?
go.
You
All
gotta
right.
be two-fisted.
All right. Okay, I get that. And what is your other fist, Chris? Okay.
It's always a Pendergast with Rio whiskey.
With Rieger whiskey. All right. So we've acknowledged our sponsors for this week. So I think I want to start actually with what we were talking about before the podcast started, and that is Muhammad Ali. We want to start by saying rest in peace to the GOAT, which actually we were having a small debate on whether or not the GOAT is the right title.
We should toast.
But we are
Mr. Ali
toasting
first.
to Muhammad Ali, to a life well lived, and a legacy that will endure around the world. When you talk about famous, we'll back into boxing. Let's just talk about famous. There's very few people that you can go anywhere in the world, to a hut in the middle of nowhere, and they know this name, they know this face. And Muhammad Ali is one of those types of famous, And since his passing a couple of days ago, it really got me to thinking about that level of fame, and like what it must be like, what I'm saying, to be that kind of famous. Like, I think about rapper, pop star famous, you can't go to the mall. But when you're like, you can't go anywhere famous, like everybody knows you. Like what is that? What kind of headspace does that put you in? I'm like, or maybe you have to be especially built for it. Like I think probably Ali was, but
Ali was definitely built for that, because the children especially would just gravitate towards him. People, and he was so gracious, and he wanted to meet people, and he liked to take their pictures, and he liked to shadow box them. I mean, these are all the things that made Ali, even when he got to the point where he couldn't speak and talk. He was just this guy that was just so bigger than life, and people, and he, Ali had a face, especially as he got older, as it changed, that was mischievous.
yeah,
He had a lot of sparkle in his eye.
yeah. Yeah.
And he could just look at you and kind of grin, or he could look at you and give you the dirty boxing look,
Yeah.
And he could evoke that emotion out of you that was really hardly anybody was able to do.
Yeah, I know. We were looking at this documentary called I Am Ali, we were looking at, and it was one part that really struck me. They were talking with one of his daughters, and so after. Now this is funny because I really think it was after they were divorced and the wife was remarried. So he's coming over to see the kids, and she hadn't seen him, the ex-wife, in 2 or 3 years. Yeah, he had seen the kids, but she hadn't seen him. So came in. Oh, good to see you. Hugs, and she said, and my mom started to cry, and she went off in the other room, and he was like, what's wrong with your mom? Why is she crying? She's like, I don't know. So she goes back there. She says, she says, I saw God on him.
In his eyes.
And it overwhelmed me, and I had to get out of the room for a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking, because that story you were telling me this morning about, the fact that his heart kept beating for 30 minutes after the rest of his organs failed. I'm like I think certain people are touched by God in a way that,
Absolutely.
it's not readily explainable, and it brought me right back to the whole, that famous question, What do you think, Roy?
Like you said, something definitely got to be built for. It's to be able to contain that type of attention and get your ego, and you can go so many spaces. We're kind of talking about Floyd Mayweather, just how they both talk trash, but they're still kind of like polar opposites. With Muhammad Ali, even though he talked his trash, he was still very much a people's person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's a man for the people.
Well, let me relate to that a little bit. One of the things that in the Kansas City Star paper,
Okay.
I do not have the glib of Ali, but this was happened before the Foreman fight in Zaire. I have wrestled with an alligator. I've done tussled with a whale. I've done handcuff lightning. I threw thunder in jail. Now, no way Mayweather can even come close to something like that. He just can't.
No.
It's because that's trash talk. Ali was a poet.
Oh yeah.
He was a poet. And as I said in our discussion before, there's no doubt in my mind, in today's world, he would have been a rapper. And it wouldn't have been gangster rap or none of that. It'd been Roy's rap. It'd been good rap. He'd been doing that. And I want to ask you something. They were talking about she saw God in Ali. You work with all these children. And you're out there rapping at these kids, and you're rapping a positive message to these kids. Don't you feel overcome sometimes with the spirit, and when them kids are connecting to you and then making you get that feel good thing, man, and there's no explaining that. It's just an amazing
Well,
thing.
actually, now that you say that, going back to the story you just told about Ali and the mother, this is what I do full time as an entrepreneur. As you all know, you face certain stuff, and sometimes you're in the trenches, and it's like, damn, you're going through a lot of things. So I had one of those moments, and we had a performance, and just to see how the kids responded and how impactful we were, just to see, it reminded me what I'm here for, what I'm doing, and I nearly shed a tear after my performance. That we just had to. It reminded me my purpose, because a lot of times, focus on, got obviously generate revenue, got to continue to grow the business, and sometimes I can kind of lose sight. I never completely lose sight, but sometimes those things can get me out of the space to where I really remember what I'm genuinely in this for, and that's to help kids. And I came to one tear when I was just thinking about it. I was just overwhelmed, and I was like, this is why I do this. For kids, when they see me, like, hey, rapping Roy, that means something to me. So.
Exactly. It's funny that you say that. Once again, in this documentary, I Am Ali, it was a point when he was, he I don't know what it was, that he knew that one day he'd want to play these tapes back to his kids. But every time he had a conversation, or a phone conversation, especially with one of his kids, he would record it all the time. And he kind of got on that subject with one of his daughters about
Miriam.
what was her name?
Marion?
Meryl? Yeah. About knowing why you're here. You know, knowing
What is your purpose?
Knowing what your purpose is. You know, he says everything has a purpose. You know, the trees have a purpose, and the birds have a purpose. Everything has a purpose. What is your purpose? You know, and she was saying, it's to help people, to make people better. And you know, I think he knew that, he knew what his purpose was. Like, I think that's the only way you can walk in that level of truth. Even when you're not 100% right, but it's 100% true to you at the moment. I think the only way you can walk in that for real is you really know why you're here. You really know what you're here to do. And, and I think, like you said, I think it was beyond the ring. His, like say a rapper raps or a painter paints, but what you do in your medium, I think it transcends, because like I said, that love that you can go to a hut in the middle of nowhere and they absolutely know who you are. You weren't just beating people up.
It's a magic.
Yeah.
When Muhammad stood there in Atlanta, trembling, and lit that torch for the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
Powerful.
I was crying. I remember that.
That was just, you sit there, if you didn't have human emotion with that, you need to go have your head examined.
How old were you?
That was powerful.
Were you born yet?
What year was it?
2006.
Oh,
Yeah.
96.
I might be able to come.
Oh, it was 2000. Oh. No, you weren't.
That was,
oh, no, you were.
That was 1996.
1996.
1996.
In Atlanta.
I was 6.
You were 12?
6.
6? Did you watch it?
I don't remember. So I'm assuming no. It seems like something you remember.
Well, you wouldn't, that secondhand smoke kind of messes with the memory somewhat.
So I was reading a little bit about him, and it said he was a double helix medal winner, honoree, and I didn't know what that was.
Okay.
And said in 2006. So I'm wondering, this must have been their first. He must have been their first honoree, but a double helix
Had to be
medal
DNA testing kind of a thing.
recognizes exceptional individuals who have dedicated their lives to raising awareness of the importance of genetics research for improving the health of people everywhere.
That makes sense.
And he was an honoree in 2006, and they started it in 2006.
Okay, because a double helix would be like your DNA strands and double helix, so that would make a lot of sense. Good for him.
It's amazing to me, too, that especially the educational system back in that time, that he was only a high school graduate, and he had that kind of vocabulary and way of talking, and just, you just don't see that very often these
No, you
days.
don't. But that's also America.
But I think you also learned that along the way. He's surrounded himself with very good people who were very good, took care of the business side and the promotional.
But he
things.
was doing that. How old was he when he started boxing?
Okay, I got a little story on that.
Okay.
At the age of 12, somebody stole his bicycle in Louisville.
Uh-huh.
This obviously upset him. And he was walking out in the street talking, they're going to whoop whoever, and I'm sure he's throwing some other vocabulary into it. And he was noticed by a local police officer who lived in the neighborhood. And the police officer went up to him and asked him, said, there's a way to channel this, there's a way to get this back. I said, I know a place where you can learn to box. And that's what got Muhammad Ali into boxing, was this police officer got him into boxing.
So
yeah.
he started boxing professionally.
I would say he was probably 16, 17.
Yeah.
So before he was even out of high school, he was
He was
talking
19.
like that.
1960, he won the gold medal, so he's 22 when he won the gold medal. So you gotta figure he probably boxed at least 4 years before that.
Well,
Yeah, I
before,
was thinking he had to be Golden
I
Gloves.
was
or something
gonna
like
say, when people finally started knowing who he was, he had already won, 16 or 18 fights
that. Yeah.
before anybody had even heard of him.
Well, you have to. You got to build yourself up through the ranks. I mean, boxing is a very specific sport. You work your way up to the amateur ranks.
Mm-hmm.
You get in the lower level professionals. You try to, again, just work your way up to eventually, hopefully, a title shot. But it's not
Unless
easy
you're
to do.
Rocky. And then Rocky, you can pretty much go from
No,
one or two.
Not Marcy.
Rocky was a professional fighter.
This
You
is
recall
true.
the movie.
This is true.
I do.
Was a ringer.
Rocky
When
Balboa.
did you
was-
start boxing, Chris? Chris is a boxer.
I love boxing, and I really got into boxing pretty hardcore probably 6-7 years ago. I mean, I was older when I got to it, and I was just like, it's one of the things that when I started going to the gym a lot, I don't like boxing clubs because generally you're just hitting a speed bag the whole time or a heavy bag. I'm like, that's kind of boring. I wanted to box.
You went to
And
spar.
so I got a trainer and we boxed, and it's fun, and I love it. And I think it's not as an incredible exercise. Like I feel like as just a guy. And my dad always had a rule when I was playing football. He's like, I don't care how hard you got hit, you better get your ass up. And that was always the thing, and boxing is the same kind of a thing.
He's got a bit of a shiner right now, too, just saying.
That's a different story.
Oh yeah, you weren't here for that story.
No, I wasn't here for that story,
Yeah.
but it fits,
That's
it fits,
offline.
it fits
That's
well into
offline,
today.
It does
yeah.
happen a lot. But yeah, no, I mean, I've loved boxing my entire life. When I was a kid, just by sheer coincidence, happened to see Sugar Ray Leonard fight Tom Ewens in Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace. By sheer coincidence, happened to be there on the time they did the rematch. It was just nuts. I mean, I've always been a boxing fan. I love it. And Ali clearly being, the figurehead of the sport, that was it wasn't that it wasn't unexpected. It's always bizarre when it happens. It's like a heavy day when it happens.
Oh yeah.
And seeing them from 96 on, you knew there's going to be any time. But then the day that it happens, I was actually in the airport when I saw it. I was like, oh God.
Well, we were coming back from here, I think, and
Oh yeah. and
I
he
had
said
just
that
walked
he
in the
went to
door, and I was
hospital
like,
or-
he's in the hospital,
And I was just like, what?
And within 10 minutes later, he passed away right around midnight, and I was like, he's gone.
Yeah, I was watching TV. I happened to be watching TV and watching NBC, and they broke in. And Lester Holt broke in too. It wasn't just
anybody. Yeah.
It was Lester Holt who's just done a fantastic job of taking over that anchor.
That's a major story.
And it was just, that was pretty daggone interesting. In fact, it was, I was watching Late Night, Jimmy Fallon, and they broke into his show. So that was,
There's very few
there's a
people
certain amount
that,
of gravity to that.
Absolutely.
There's very few people that actually you would break into it's not a ticker at the bottom of the screen.
No, it's not a ticket.
It's-
That's the real deal. That's what he really has become. He was an American icon, really along the likes of even Martin Luther King.
Yeah. I would agree.
You got to realize that. And then, as far as his religion go, I mean, he got together with Dr. King on things. Him and Dr. King conferred on many things. They were friends, and that's when he also had converted to Sunni Muslim at that time. They got away from the Nation of Islam. So,
Yeah, King may have been our greatest American, but Ali is definitely our most famous American.
yeah, I'm a huge Dr. King fan. That man, what he said and what he did, he was no one person's a perfect man.
No.
And certainly Dr. King wasn't, but you look at what Dr. King did, the things he said and how he said it. Oh my gosh, there's so many people in today's world that can heed his word.
I would agree, but I would say, in my humble opinion, and this is, I think it'd be impossible to take anything away from Dr. King. That'd be ridiculous. But if you had to say who had the harder road to get to where they were, you were talking an uneducated boxer who turned into one of the world's greatest humanitarians that
Yes.
is beloved on so many different levels and
Levels.
inspired people outside of just his chosen profession. In fact, despite his chosen profession more
Despite,
than anything,
yeah.
if you want to be honest, versus, probably the greatest orator and clearly the greatest civil rights champion.
Well,
of all time.
he
That's a
said-
transformation that's hard.
He said things in a way that people, it wasn't that they weren't controversial. It was like Mario said, he said things that were real and you couldn't dispute it, but it wasn't from a place of hate the way it
Perfect
is
example.
now. It's just like, this is a fact and you can't really say anything against